Alright, hello and welcome to the channel. You read the title of the video, so let's go ahead and get right into the review. So right off the bat, I'm going to say that this mouse is really good. It does a lot of things well for both amateurs and pros, but just like with everything else in life, it does have a few flaws and it's not perfect. The VIPER's ambidextrous body feels very solid and well built overall. My VIPER had a slight give up in the middle and my right mouse button started to act up, but we'll talk about that more later on. The body has a matte black textured finish that kind of feels like the same material PBT keycaps are made of. Some may not like how it feels when rubbing your fingers down the buttons, but I like it, and I think it helps with grip. Speaking of grip, the mouse is very comfortable in most grip styles. Over time, I have been using more of a claw and relaxed claw grip with moments where I'll go into fingertip grip. Because the back feels shorter, there isn't much of an area to rest the back of your hand on. This along with a flatter top make palm gripping the mouse less than ideal, but not impossible. I have yet to experience any discomfort while using the mouse for extended periods of time. Looking from the top down, you'll notice the styled indents or grooves right above the mouse 1 and 2 buttons, along with the deep groove running down from the center where the scroll wheel is housed. To me, this makes the mouse seem a little tacky. I would have preferred both of these be flattened out, giving the mouse a more grown-up look, but I understand that some may like this design choice. The scroll wheel sits low on the mouse, which to me makes moving from the left and right buttons seem a little faster thanks to a shorter travel distance. The wheel has small raised bumps lining it, which gives it a great sticky feel. Scrolling has noticeably more resistance than other mice I've used. This can be taken either way depending on your preference, but for me, I like the stiffer scroll because there's less of a chance of me accidentally switching weapons while in a first-person shooter. And using the wheel as a button feels more assuring knowing it won't scroll unless you want it to. The sides are lined with a soft rubber pad with a dotted texture. I don't care too much for how it makes the mouse look, but there's no denying that it feels absolutely amazing when gaming or needing to grip the mouse. I sometimes get sweaty hands while gaming for extended periods of time, so having the soft rubber sides helps keep a firm grip on the mouse without ever losing control. The two buttons on either side don't stick out much and their placement feels good for my hands. Clicking them feels fine too. The one thing about the buttons is that they aren't modular, so you'll be stuck with all four on at the same time. Being a right-hander, this has led me to accidentally click the buttons on the right side a few times during intense firefights. Fortunately, it doesn't happen enough to be a concern. I believe you can even disable them through the Razer Synapse software. The back doesn't have much of a hump and it feels like it drops off quickly, so if you like to palm grip your mouse, this may take some getting used to at first. It does slightly flare out thanks to the side grooves. Also, here is where you'll find the one and only RGB zone in the Razer logo. I personally can't stand the ugly design of the logo itself, so I have mine completely turned off. That pretty much covers the outer look of the mouse. Now, I generally prefer more of a minimalist design to most things, so with that being said, I think the overall look of the VIPER Ultimate is passable. It probably won't blend too well in an office environment because it gives off some gamer vibes, but that's not the intended market anyway. The rubber side grips are a welcome addition that I think every mouse should include, even if it dings the visuals by a point or two. The rest of the textured body will be liked by most, but I can see how it could put off those who will be upgrading from a mouse with a smooth finish. Moving on to the bottom, you'll find what Razer claims are 100% PTFE feet, which is always a positive in the mouse community and a huge win on Razer's part. They really do help make the mouse glide with very little effort, which in turn can translate to more control over your aim and less of a strain on your hand and arm when flicking. Also down here you will find the power switch, USB adapter storage, and DPI button. I love that the DPI button is down here instead of at the top, so that way I won't accidentally click it during game sessions and throw off my aim. The star of the show is definitely the Focus Plus sensor. Look, I honestly can't tell you much about the technical aspects of the sensor besides reading off from a spec sheet. But what I do know is that this thing feels amazing. The tracking is exceptional and the accuracy is the best I've experienced so far. This coupled with Razer's hyperspeed wireless technology, which claims to be 25% faster than other wireless technologies, makes for one of the most seamless and enjoyable experiences. Check out the links in the description below if you want to learn more about the technical aspects of the sensor and wireless technology. Let's talk about one of the killer features of this mouse, the weight. Coming in at an incredible 74 grams, one of the first things I noticed right away was how light the mouse felt. At first it kind of put me off a little and it had me questioning the quality and durability of the mouse. But with continued use, I later learned to love how light it felt and no longer had any concerns about build quality. It also helps that the mouse feels perfectly balanced. Engaging targets in Warzone felt snappy and effortless, and while not drastic, I did notice an increase in my accuracy and overall aim. It's even better when you consider that this is a wireless mouse without a honeycomb design similar to that of the Model O. Because of the lightweight and solid body, the mouse feels super comfortable to use and it almost becomes an extension of your arm. Side note, after a bit of switching back and forth between this and the G Pro Wireless, I had to double check my DPI settings because I swore it felt different. But both are set to 800 DPI, so I guess it was just me and or the weight difference of the mice. The mouse includes an antiquated micro USB slot to plug your mouse in to use wired and for charging. The slot is recessed into the body, so when you plug the cable in, it makes it look like a wired mouse. And actually, if you didn't know it was wireless, you swear it was the older cousins of the mouse, the VIPER and VIPER Mini. Keep in mind that larger male micro USB cable ends may have an issue fitting into the female slot of the mouse, but I haven't seen anyone complain about that, so it's probably a non-issue. It's a wireless mouse anyway, so the cable isn't too important. The cable itself surprised me as to how nice it was. I believe it's a paracord-like material called SpeedFlex. When connected to the mouse, it is barely noticeable due to how light it is and how well it glides across the desk. Razer could have just included a standard rubber cable, so having this is a really nice addition on their part. With the RGB off, the battery is rated to last up to 70 hours before needing to charge. Razer claims that you can charge it once a week and that it'll allow you to game about 10 hours daily. Those are bold claims for sure, but what about in real life? Previously coming from a wired mouse, I had reservations about going wireless, and this was an area of concern. There were days when I was paranoid thinking I was getting low on battery, but every time I checked my battery percentage, it had barely budged, if at all. And as of me writing this review, the battery life has continued to be nothing but exceptional, and I have zero complaints. So, you can charge the mouse one of two ways. One is with the included micro USB cable that you simply plug into the mouse and that's it. The second way is by placing it on Razer's charging dock. Did you notice those contacts on the bottom of the mouse? Well, you hover your mouse over the pins on the dock and the magnetic force latches onto the mouse by the contact points underneath and begins to charge. Even though it does inflate the price of the mouse a bit more, in my mind it is 100% a must-have just for the ease of use alone. You no longer have to worry about plugging in cables to charge your mouse after a long gaming session. Place your mouse on the dock and boom, you're in business. Plus it looks really nice with the LED ring around the base. Adding on to the awesomeness of this thing, the dock also has a sticky, rubber-like lining around the bottom that prevents it from sliding around on your desk. When placed on a flat surface, you won't have to worry about it moving around when docking your mouse or moving whatsoever, even with the little force applied to it. Okay, so at the beginning of the review, I mentioned that the mouse wasn't perfect and it has its flaws. Let's talk about those now. It's the one thing that you probably have heard or seen being talked about everywhere when it comes to the VIPER Ultimate, the left and right mouse buttons. Because Razer went with the optical switches, some say that this changes the feel of the clicks in a noticeable way. Did I notice a difference? Yes. So the first few days of using the mouse, both clicks felt great. They were tactile and had a quick response. They felt crisp. Around day 5, I started to notice an ever so slight pre-travel on my right mouse button. I thought nothing of it. Day 7, and now the right mouse button had a sort of pre-click feedback before actually clicking down all the way. Here, listen for yourself. It's very minor and some would say nitpicky, but for a mouse that costs upwards of $150, this is not okay. Another day went by and I noticed that my left mouse button was starting to also make the same noise, but it was much more subtle. How has this affected my in-game performance? Well, when aiming down sights with the right mouse button, I do sense a slight delay due in part to the pre-travel, false click, and subsequent actual click. This is all happening within a span of a few milliseconds, but because it's inconsistent, it messes with my aim and control. It's totally possible I have a defective unit, but it seemed like it's a widespread issue with quality control plaguing most ultimates in the wild right now. The second issue is the so-called mushy clicks on both buttons. Again, this has to do with the optical sensors, and it's not going to be much of an issue for some, and more of a forgettable quirk for others. Okay, so after everything is said and done, what do I think about this? I absolutely love this mouse and would recommend it to pretty much anybody in the market for a wireless mouse. It has a great sensor, outstanding battery life, awesome stock PTFE feet 100%, which glide perfectly. The sides are rubber, so the feel in the hand is great. The textured top and body makes it so it's hard for you not to have control over the mouse at all times. But, and this is a big but, the probability of you getting a dud right now seems to be very likely because a lot of these VIPERs are having issues with the right and left mouse button. And actually, as a side note, I did return the VIPER you are currently seeing in this video. This is my second one now. This one came out of the box much better. When I mentioned that it had flex up top here, it was this little section. So when I pressed it, it went in a little bit, caved in, but this one doesn't do it. I do notice there's a major difference in the sounds when it comes to the right and left mouse button. The right does sound like it's starting to do the same noise that you heard earlier in the video, but it hasn't done it yet. We're on day 3 or 4 now, and it still hasn't done it, but I'm assuming it's going to happen eventually, unfortunately. So yeah, for $150, that's just not something that you should ever have to worry about. $150 is a lot of money, so you would expect something to be perfect, but you may be one of those lucky few who have the perfect mouse. And if that's the case, then congratulations on having what I personally think is the best wireless mouse on the market right now that you can buy. Now, I will remain optimistic that Razer will eventually work out these issues with the mouse buttons, but until that day comes, I am going to go back to my G Pro Wireless as my daily driver. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.